All right, another Peter Benavente movie, and this time it is Dracula 2000, just the first one. He had no interest in me doing two or three. I thought about doing them, and I went to press play, and I just couldn't get myself excited to watch it. Now, what's interesting about the sequels is that they are written and directed by the same guys who did the first one. So Patrick Lussier, who went on to direct, a bunch of stuff. He was actually a, pretty prolific director, to be honest. He's done a lot. Not a lot of great, but he's done a good amount of memorable titles. But I was really, really surprised to see that he directed all three of these. So I was like, interesting. If I like this one, I'm definitely looking forward to checking the sequels out, see where they go. Because the same writer, same director, I would assume that they're going to keep the first one canon, and have... Now, the sequels, Dracula 2000, then Dracula 2 and Dracula 3. I don't know. Like, really? That's the titles you went with? Like, shouldn't it be like Dracula 2002, Dracula 2003, or Dracula 3000? There is a Dracula 3000. It says like a 2.1 on IMDb. I thought that was a sequel to Dracula 2000, which I'm sure is what they tried to make people think when they did it. But Dracula 2 Ascension and Dracula 3 Legacy. I don't know. Dracula 2 after Dracula 2000. I'd be like, where's the other fucking 1,998 movies? I don't know. Those titles, they don't really work. The hell? Why is the D dropped? You won't be able to see this on here. You see that? Okay, maybe you will. See how the D's just dropped on Dracula? On all of them? That's really bizarre. And then on this one, the D is smaller than the rest. But on this one, it's like up and bigger. Huh. Was someone just like really bad at Photoshop, or is there a reason for that? I don't know. Fuck. Alright, anyway. Alright, let's talk about this movie. So, we've got the hacker kid in this movie, Johnny Lee Miller. We've got fucking Leonidas himself kicking people into wells, screaming, "This is Sparta." No, that doesn't happen in this one. You know what this movie reminds me of? It has the aesthetics, like it has the feel of the Wishmaster movies. It has a very similar vibe. Like, it's just that time period is like encapsulated in these kinds of movies that like late 90s, early 2000s, they have the same, like in the direct to DVD type stuff, they have that same kind of feel, like video. Like, the quality of the film is really low. Like, it does not look like film. It's really poor looking fucking cinema. Like, when you watch it, you're like, this aesthetically is just really bland. And everything feels mediocre, just visually. I hate the aesthetics of late 90s, almost all the 90s to be honest, but like especially like mid 90s to like early 2000s, and especially anything that's like direct to DVD, direct to VHS back then. Awful looking stuff. So I don't know what they were filming on. Maybe it was like when they were starting to transition over to digital, and that was maybe before they had like film grading. I don't know, but regardless, I hate the way it looks. Anyway, all right. So in this version, Bram Stoker's Dracula exists, and Van Helsing is thought to be a kind of a fraud or something of those sorts. But then, of course, we find out that Christopher Plummer is actually Van Helsing himself and has kept himself alive to protect Dracula's tomb for 1,000 years or however the hell long it's been. The movie is dated as fuck. Oh my god, when you're watching it, you're just like, Jesus Christ, you can't not tell that this is like the time period in which it takes place. Like, it was released in 2000, as the title would suggest, and it very, very much feels like... It honestly doesn't even feel that new. Like, I was watching it like, this feels more like 98, 96. I know that seems close, but I don't know. Like, this movie absolutely tried to play off of the whole Matrix thing. Like, Patrick Lussier and these guys were like, oh, the Matrix is cool right now. You know, Matrix came out in 99. And this was like, you know, they probably were filming this when the Matrix hit big. And they were like, oh, you know what? We're going to throw this guy in a trench coat. And our fight sequences are going to be like action sequences. And they're going to look like some of the Matrix fighting sequences. Awful decision. Fucking awful decision. Now, Gerard Butler as Dracula is a good casting, but he's given very little to work with. I mean, he has almost zero dialogue in the whole movie. He's just there to look sexy and, you know, entice women and whatever. And for that, God, I have fucking something really hurts in my nose. I want to, like, scratch it, but I can't right now because it'll look like I'm picking my nose. So I'm like, oh, just pushing on the outside. Ouch. But yeah, he's fine. This movie is ridiculous. This movie's absolutely ridiculous. I think that if you're a fan of this time period, you know, even like John Carpenter's Vampires kind of has one of these feels, except for the one thing that this movie does not have that John Carpenter's Vampires does have is James Woods. And James Woods is the only reason that John Carpenter's Vampires is not complete trash. Like, if it wasn't for him and his ridiculous performance in that movie is almost completely garbage. Like, it's a bad movie. And you can watch my full spoiler discussion on that. I did that like 2 years ago. But man, it's not a very good movie. But it's still kind of, yeah, it has that feel. Except for, like, that movie, but without James Woods. That's what you got here. Because Johnny Lee Miller is terrible in this. Like, his acting is terrible. His, like, lead character charisma is terrible. Even though, yes, the chick is supposed to be the main character, and I guess she is. But even she is so bland. Like, yeah, she's cute. She's got great tits. I mean, we don't see them, but, like, when she wakes up, she's, like, not wearing a bra, and she's, like, got her shirt on and everything. And you're like, oh, I hope we see those. You know, nope. But that's fine. I mean, you don't need to. You do get to see. Now, okay, speaking of tits, because I'm the fucking tit master on this channel. No, in everywhere, all places. I'm the tit master. That's how I'm known all around the world, right? No. So, you have a film that you set during Mardi Gras in Louisiana, like downtown. Like, I don't understand this at all. So you're in New Orleans, you're there for Mardi Gras, you know, and there's all these people, there's these scenes where they're all like, you know, looking up on the balconies, whatever, and they're trying to get beads, whatever. They're trying to throw beads, whatever. And they're like, yeah, show us your tits, this and that. And they just keep, like, looking up, and they're like, oh, yeah, all right. This is an R-rated movie. And they never, ever show a single tit in that sequence. Or any of those sequences. They're in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. People are throwing beads for tits. And not a tit is shown. What? Why? I mean, that's the whole reason that Adam Green had Hatchet set there, you know, so he could show a ton of tits. Like, it's a slasher movie. Fuck it. Show a ton of tits, right? Like, this I'm baffled by. Like, I would honestly be saying, I don't know if, I can't say I would honestly be saying this. I don't know what the fuck I would think if I wasn't me, but I feel like even if I wasn't, like, the tit fucking fanatic that I am and talk about him so much on my channel, I feel like I would still notice this as a glaring question mark. Like, huh? Like, why is this not there? Like, why set it there? Why? What's the purpose? I mean, you have a horror movie. You know your fans. Everyone wants to see tits for the most part. Like, why? Why would you have this sequence and no tits? I'll just never get it. Now, you do get to see some tits in the movie very, very briefly. And I know this seems like a ridiculous complaint, but come on. Come on. It's ridiculous. Anyway, all right. So I like that Christopher Plummer's character, well, his character, Van Helsing, has this vault, and there's like this $1 million vault door that locks off his little catacombs down there that protects Dracula's tomb, because he can't figure out a way to kill Dracula. He can't figure out a way to kill Dracula. How is Dracula fucking defeated at the end of this movie? He's hung out in front of the sun with a cross above him, and it kills him. You didn't think to put him in the sun? Really? Like, you had him, you know, in shackles and masks and everything, and you had him at your disposal. You didn't think to, like, put him in front of the sun with, like, a cross on him. That never crossed your mind in, like, the 1,000 years you've had him locked in there. Like, we couldn't figure out a way to kill him, so we've locked him in there, and now I've kept him, and I've kept myself alive for however long by injecting myself with, like, leech Dracula blood or whatever. Like, huh? What? Couldn't figure out a way to kill him? What are you talking about? And she's like, oh, this chick figures out how to kill him in 2 minutes. 2 fucking minutes. She's like, this is the way you die. And he's like dead sure on it. And then that is the way he dies. Like, what? Come on. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And you know what also adds to the stupidity of it? There's a sequence in this where he's a wolf, and then someone shoots at him, and he turns into bats and flies away. Okay, so he has the ability to turn into bats, spread his body thin, and turn into bats. So he's hung there, and I guess because the Lord is above him, he has none of his powers, right? That's what we're going with? But, like, before that, like, as soon as he's, like, trapped in it, he doesn't immediately turn to bats? Like, it's just so dumb. It's just so dumb. You're just sitting there like, you can't kill him, but this chick kills him in 2 minutes, and he can't get out of it even though he can turn into bats. And Grr. They have a lot of not cameos, but like small parts played by some actors that I have a really hard time taking seriously because of prior roles that they were in. Whether it's the kid from That 70s Show, or it's the dude from Dead Man on Campus, or Omar Epps, or any of these guys where I'm just like, am I supposed to take any of these guys serious as badass criminals? These must be the best funded criminals, like small town criminals that I've ever seen. They have a private jet. Like, I'm guessing that's Van Helsing's? Is that, like, addressed in the movie? Because I was already starting to check out by this point. I was like, what the fuck? They're in a jet now? This must be, like, she had access to that because she had access to him. Is that what happened there? But he, like, let that plane get chartered? I guess he was busy down in the catacombs, whatever. Okay, yeah, sure, they have a plane. Which actually kind of reminds me of Cruise's The Mummy. Similar little thing there. Fly in the coffin and all hell breaks loose. And I like how the guy Nathan Fillion plays the priest in here. That was pretty cool. This is also a guy that can control the weather. He can control the fucking weather in certain sequences. So, like, he could have brought in clouds and blocked the sun. Like, but as I said, I guess the Lord above him kept his powers weak and he couldn't move. But Van Helsing never thought to do that. Sure. And shit, even in this, Leonidas has got some pretty good abbage going on down here. You've also got Jerry Ryan from Star Trek Voyager here, which I thought was cool to see. She plays one of the 3 Dracula brides in this. I actually really like the Dracula's bride sequences. I thought that was kind of cool. The way that they looked and the way they were shot. I would say that's probably the best thing about this movie is the attack of the 3 Dracula brides in this. That's aesthetically and all that. It's kind of creepy. The way the women give their performances, the way they look, the way they're shot, all that stuff is actually kind of decent. And I was like, all right, this is something. We got something going on here. And I like how so he has this like silver gun, and he shoots it through one guy at first time, right? So it goes like completely through his body. Then the guy gets shot with the same gun at the same distance, like 6 times in a row. And every one of them stick into him about this far, and they're all sticking out of his body like this much. The velocity has, like, I guess the first one comes out with a higher velocity or hit him in a more fleshy part of his body, and the other ones just so happen to hit bone every time and stick there. I don't know. I got nothing for that one, but there you go. The dialogue in this movie, especially from like the villains, is horrid. Just horrid. That like, I'm trying to be clever, action horror, one-liner garbage. Oh man, it's bad. The only way that this would work is if Arnold Schwarzenegger was delivering the lines. For some reason, that dude, and you know, some other people can do it too, other action dudes. So unless you're like an 80s action star, forget it. Don't do cheesy dialogue. It just doesn't work. And in this one, it's really really doesn't work. We get the retelling of the famous Dracula line of "I don't drink wine," and this one he doesn't drink coffee. One really cool thing here, though, I really like this about the movie. They actually use one of Dracula's strengths to his disadvantage in this. So the way that Van Helsing captures him in this is that he puts a mirror up against bars, and then Dracula, of course, walks down not seeing himself in the reflection, because vampires don't show their reflection. So he uses that against him, and Dracula walks right into a cage. That was fucking brilliant. That right there, that one bit is brilliance. I love it. I got nothing else to say about this movie that's brilliant by any means. But that one thing is like a moment you come up with as a writer, you know, as someone trying to put a new spin on something in the vampire subgenre, and being like, oh, that's been done. You know, oh, he has these powers. He can turn into bats. He can do this and that. He can't be seen in the reflection. You know, he can't be seen in the camera, whatever. To flip that on him and actually use it as a disadvantage to him, like I never thought like him not being able to see himself in the mirror would be used to such a devastating effect against him, but it is, and it's awesome. It's awesome. It'd be very disorienting for you to be a vampire who walked into a hall of mirrors. Wouldn't know where the fuck you were. You'd just be like, where the fuck am I? You'd just be freaking out where you'd have to like look down at your feet to see yourself. You wouldn't know where the fuck you were. Yeah, that'd be actually a really funny gag. And then Johnny becomes this like badass believer in like 2.7 seconds. I actually have written down here 2.7 seconds. I don't know why that number was like good for me, but I wrote it down and I went with it, and I said it. So there you go. Van Helsing is killed in this, which I thought was kind of cool. Expected, but still, it was like, all right, someone's dead, finally. And so he's a wolf. He jumps at the guy, and then he shoots at him, so he turns into bats, and then just vanishes for no reason. Like, instead of like just turning to bats and then like turning whole again and then killing him, he turns into bats and flies away and does not come back for a while. why? Does it take a minute to regroup? Like, do you have to like go and like get all the bats to like fly back together? And you know, or did some of them fly away and you're like, I don't want to come back without a foot? Like, why wouldn't he just immediately like return to shape and kill the guy? Like, this is the kind of shit that I just watch these kinds of things. As someone who likes writing these, you know, writing movies, I always just see these as problematic moments. It's like, as a writer, I would sit there and I'm like typing away at it, being like, yeah, but why? And wouldn't he just do this? And isn't this just a smart? And it's really hard to write a movie like that. It's not impossible, by the way, but it's really fucking hard because there are so many moments where you want to create tension, and then you're just like, you know, that part of your brain goes, yeah, but wouldn't he just do this? And I know a lot of writers are like, fuck it, you know, like the audience is just gonna have to accept that this was what would happen, and he wouldn't do that. But I won't allow myself to do that. Like, I sit there and I'm like, no, let's just get more clever. And let's write a reason why they would do this or not that. You know? So, the whole, like, bats just flying away and then not just coming back. And I got zero. But, if I did have to write that sequence, I would give a reason as to why. And... yeah, so the Brides of Dracula are cool and all, but then there's a scene where the chick is looking at him and then she closes her eyes and then they're just gone. Why would that happen? They're not dreams. They're not make-believe. And there's no reason for them to leave in that moment. Like, these are what I'm talking about. These questions, you're just like, huh? Come on. I like that Dracula has a backstory that makes him... I guess he's Judas. Is that what happens? He's Judas. He's there at the crucifixion, and he gets wrapped up in that, and that's why he doesn't like crosses or Christ or like all. They give all these reasonings for why he's the way he is, and I was like, all right, there we go. Expanding on the lore, giving him more of a backstory. I can dig it. I put hung in front of sun, ? Jesus stopping powers, ? Turn into bat, they never tried. Sunlight before, ? I was just like frantically writing in this moment, like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I guess the spell's lifted when he dies because she's not a vampire anymore. And somehow she was faking it, even though, I mean, she was bit, but then she faked it. Even though I don't know, that's one hell of a yeah, what am I thinking of here? Fucking willpower. She got one hell of willpower that she doesn't go in for the bite. But yeah, and then she takes up the mantle of Van Helsing. Yeah, whatever. Okay, and how come her and Dad don't turn? How come her and Dad don't turn? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why Van Helsing, the Christopher Plummer character, isn't a vampire in this. I don't understand. Like, he just takes a little bit of Dracula's blood and gives himself little injections, and that's enough to suffice, I guess. And then when Dracula's killed, I guess that breaks the curse on her vampirism. So there's your explanation. Yeah, overall, the vibe of this movie is just 90s trash. Even though it's 2000, it was shot in the 90s. It feels like the 90s. You guys know I fucking hate the 90s. There's very little in the 90s that I like, and this sure shit ain't one of them. So there you go. 2 Peter Benavente reviews in a row that I didn't like, but you know me. I'm going to give my honest opinion. This movie was fucking ridiculous. I didn't care for almost any of it, and so much so. But I guarantee that I actually probably would like 2 and 3 better. I bet you anything I would. So maybe I'll check them out. Maybe. We'll see. Adios.